These are the best places to live during a nuclear apocalypse. Now, guys, of course, nuclear war has been the talk for the last couple of years. And being that tensions between the United States, China, Russia, North Korea is getting worse on a day-to-day, clearly something's going to happen. Now, I think personally that it's going to get set off by a tactical nuke. And from there, things can spiral out of control. Now, there was a book stating that if any kind of nuke is used, any kind of nuclear device is used, things could spiral out of control and the world can end within an hour and a half to 2 hours, complete, total devastation. That being said, there are still places you can live comfortably even during a nuclear apocalypse, because keep in mind, guys, fallout, radiation, things of that nature are going to move through the flow path of air. Now, if the entire world detonates itself, then it's pretty much not a safe place to live. But if it's tactical strikes here and there, it can be survivable. Now, again, in the lady's book, it's a total annihilation. But from other readings, if you will, when they talk about nuclear strikes, it could be tactical or strategic strikes, which are limited use, meaning they're not going all out and launching everything they have. They are striking certain areas throughout the world. And that's normally where you disarm everyone, right? United States hits China and their field. China, Russia hits America and our military installation and our allies' installations. And then things like that will probably stop after that. Again, probably. Then there's also the fuck it approach. And then they just launch everything and then everybody's glowing in the dark. And it will look like Mad Max on probably a way worse level. Nonetheless, humans will survive. And there are places where you can survive during a nuclear strike. Now, guys, in the hypothetical scenario of a nuclear strike, hypothetical, again, there's all kinds of versions or scenarios that can go down with a nuclear strike. But the best or safest place to live is said to be Vermont. And that's according to this article that I read a few weeks ago. Now, Vermont is one of them. Idaho is another one. And both places are very expensive states to live in, especially Idaho. I didn't think Idaho was so expensive. People are telling me that the cost of living there is out of control. All right. And then you got various other places throughout the country now where the rich are moving to get away from nonsense. Like here in New York City, they're moving to these small towns in different states and driving up the cost of living. So anyway, Vermont being one of the safest places, Idaho is the next. Now, as far as where you want to build an underground bunker, I think Idaho would be best. I'm not sure about Vermont. So again, those are the safest places to live above ground. Underground, you can live just about anywhere, but you also have to take into account where you live, how close you are to the nearest city, how bad is that nearest city. For example, if you live next to New York, if you live near Detroit, are you going to be safe living that close? No, you have to be 3 hours away from these cities or any major city and about an hour or two away from a small town. Not a big town, a small town. Now, being, guys, that we are building everywhere in this country, and my drives around the United States, I'm seeing small towns, big towns being built everywhere now. New building structures, apartment complexes, things of that nature are being built damn near all over the place. So if you lived in an area where you were 3 hours away from a major city, you might have a small town or a medium-sized town being built next to you. And like I said, I'm seeing that growing across the country. Still, and it's 3 hours driving, not walking, driving distance. Because if it's 3 hours driving distance, that means if everything is annihilated, to walk to you is probably a few days walk. So keep that in mind, guys, when you're looking for a place to live during or after a nuclear apocalypse. Now, certain places, guys, like Maine, Louisiana, New Hampshire, are also followed closely by Vermont or under Vermont. So after Vermont, New Hampshire, Louisiana, Wyoming, and Maine are on this list as well. Now, I find Louisiana to be interesting because, again, Louisiana has like New Orleans and a couple of other major places, and they're also, I thought they were a poor state, but still, there's a lot of places in the bayou you can hide. There's a lot of places in forest you can hide, which is why I'm curious as to why like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Colorado weren't on the list, because again, a lot of forest area you can hide deeply in there. and you could stay away and out of the eyes of people. Most people, if they don't know what they're doing, are not going to venture into the woods. And I think that's a safer spot for you to live if you can get to those areas. And if you know what you're doing, you have to know what you're doing to live in these places. But again, these are the states, guys, that they're stating are one of the safest places to live after a nuclear apocalypse. Again, depending on the scenario. If it's an all-out scenario, then it doesn't matter where you live. But if it's a limited scenario, these are the places you want to live, and these are the places you want to look into. West Virginia is another one that's not on the list, which I found very weird, because again, in West Virginia, you could disappear about anywhere there. You could disappear in PA. A lot of spots in PA, a lot of woods in PA that you can live in, and again, disappear. Tennessee, another spot where there's just so much forest, so much area you can, again, disappear and no one knows. But to live in these environments, you have to know what you're doing. A lot of us city folks wouldn't know. Now, I would be able to get away with living in the forest, living in the woods. But most people who don't go camping, who don't go hiking, who just don't read anything about how to live off-grid, they would fail. Now, would I have a hard time trying to live off-grid all of a sudden? Probably. But would I make it work? Yes. I have ideas. Again, I've done days in the woods, and I would just have to multiply that into months and years. Hunting is not my strong suit, but I'm learning how to do it. Not that I would learn at that point. I'm learning how to do it. And listen, guys, people learn to survive. That's the other side of that coin. If you have survival instinct, you're going to make it work. There are a lot of people who are under this false narrative that if you put a city person out in the woods, they would die. Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. Survival instinct kicks in, and there's a lot of things that we have read, known, and done out in the woods that would increase our survival over the person who has no idea. But I think even a person who has no idea would get it together, because people have survived in the woods, lost for weeks and months, because I'm not sure why they did it. I'm not sure if they had prior knowledge. I'm not sure if they read books, but they have survived. So in a survival scenario, especially with your family, you're going to make it work. If you're in a cold environment, you know exactly what you need to do to make sure your family gets through those cold winter months. Yes, there have been pioneers that have died in the woods, in the cold, especially coming from over in England and Ireland and never experiencing that kind of cold over here, and they have in the past. But people have survived. So survivability is there. You just got to keep your head about you when you're in that situation. Now, the most dangerous states to live in are New York, California, Nevada, Arizona, which I was a little surprised with Nevada and Arizona. Maybe because of the heat. Now, how they scaled this, or how they scored it, if you will, was a lot of things. Medical availability, access to fresh water, access to food, probably hunting and things of that nature. Population density, how much security is in the area, how much security you can provide for yourself, how much weapons are in that state. New York City and California are one of the dangers because we have an abundance amount of weapons here because of criminals. New York, or rather New York State and New York City, would turn into something like a Snake Plissken nightmare, right? Escape from New York. California is about the same way as well. Any major city that has a lot of gangs and violence and guns, those are the dangerous places you want to stay away from. If you live near Chicago or Detroit, no, move. You live near New York, move. Now, those people who live upstate New York, and I'm talking about deep upstate New York, they have a better survivability because they are hours away from New York City. But again, population density also plays a huge role. You got a lot of people here in New York State, or rather New York City, sorry. You have a lot of people in Arizona and a lot of people in Nevada. So those are the reasons why they're dangerous. In California as well, a ton of people there. Places with less people, your survivability goes up. Places with more access to fresh drinking water, your survivability goes up more. Can you farm on that land? Yes, it goes up even higher. These are the things that you have to account for when you're looking at moving to a place for survivability purposes. You just don't go there and go, man, the air is fresh here. Yes. Tennessee, fresh drinking water all over the place. Trout in these streams all over Tennessee. So this is one of the other places you can move to, which I'm surprised why it wasn't on this list. I don't know why it wasn't, and I didn't even look into it because I read it. I didn't see Tennessee as one of the places. Oklahoma is another place that has a lot, especially northern Oklahoma, a lot of places you can hide fresh drinking water, fish in the stream. Now, keep in mind, fish in stream is good, but if the stream gets contaminated with nuclear fallout and or waste, therein lies another problem. So you also have to consider that. You have to look at the flow path or the wind pattern here in the United States and correlate that to where you want to live. It's why Idaho is one of the best places to live, because nuclear fallout sort of dips right under Idaho and makes its way, southeast for a little bit, and then comes back up northeast as the wind stream, or the jet stream, if you will, makes its way across the country. But again, that's another conversation for another day, but these are things to look at. Now, there is a book you should read. This book here. This book is by far, it's a relocation book. This book puts it all together for you, and you can identify the best places for you to live reading this book. I'm going to put the link for this book in the description section below. Hopefully you guys can get a look at it. Read this book, because I have both versions of this book. Excellent book. Some people will say the book's a bit racist because it puts black people on the spot. So be it, dude. Fucking, when there's communities or low income communities, whatever they're, black, Spanish, or white, don't live near them, because it's normally going to be a shitbag area, and the crime is normally high in those areas. And avoid high crime areas, period. If there's a high crime area within 2-3 hours of you, or 2 hours of you, don't move there. If you can move 3-4 hours away from that, you increase your chances of survival. Anyway, guys, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching the Angry Prepper channel.